Maybe. Might expand it, who the hell knows? Okay, right after this I'm going to have to move everything downstairs because I'm getting too much stuff on the pool table. Alright, now where is the fret? The fret is in the refrigerator. So basically the idea is the fret should be smaller. To a large extent, that seems to have worked. Got to size those frets a little better, but the cooling the fret down and heating the fingerboard up seems to have worked. Okay, so I think I can put them in there. The method was heating the fretboard and freezing the fret and then tapping it in there with a, not metal, but a heavy hard plastic. I need to cut it a little bit better, but hey, let me do that. So I've had to move this whole operation from the pool table, which of course is not really where I should have started it, but you know, who knew? Because I was carrying all my tools up from the basement workshop, which was down here. Over here it's much cooler down here, which is good for me, but maybe not so good. So there's all sorts of crap that I got down here. You know, when you got tools out and you're working with them, Dremel tool, hairdryer, grinder, various hammers, all sorts of crap, and the victim. That seemed to screw up the fret, so I used this plastic hammer that's seen some use, I guess, in its day. Tapped it into place. Very critical that these frets end up exactly the same height. I don't know exactly how to make sure that happens. But if it doesn't happen, it could be big trouble. As you can see, these are brass as opposed to nickel, so it'll probably look pretty cool when it's done. Whether or not it works, I don't know. Apparently that method works pretty well because these things come right on up out of there. Now see, that's rough right there. Really almost need to sand that. Because the edge of these grooves are rough. Now, I think I'd mentioned before that I was using this little Dremel tool, not on the Dremel tool itself, because I'd probably destroy something very quickly. But just rolling it in there, because it's rough on both sides. Just basically cleaning that groove out. And probably widening it a little bit, because these guys are definitely thicker. Not a whole lot, but they're so small, not a whole lot could be significant. Might have to oil this fretboard, but that's fine. I think the middle of that thing is definitely deep enough, but I kind of question these sides here. I guess be the same. I don't think depth was a problem on the other one, but gotta make sure, somehow or another, you gotta make sure that these things are at the same exact depth. If it's not deep enough, then you're gonna get screwed on the deal. You don't want to be screwed on the deal. So there was another Dremel tool kind of thing that actually has some sandpaper on there, which happens to fit in there. It's only got sandpaper on one side. So the problem I encountered before was that this fretboard would kind of split and peeled off. I got a bunch of fine files. At least going to file the entrance here. Of course, you don't want it too wide, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. At least it wasn't on the first two. So now I'm going to reapply moisture. I'm going to leave it applied, but I still haven't really sized these frets quite correctly. So this one is, I would call it, ever so slightly too long. Ever so slightly in the mandolin. So what I was going to say is I still need to size this thing. But what I was planning on doing is using the grinder over there. This grinds pretty well, but just a fair warning, it gets hot too, so you need to wear gloves. Okay. I'm going to grind this thing down. And try to form it correctly on each end. So it should be shorter and it should be formed correctly when it gets hot. Hey, I do my clothes. When it gets hot, I can dip it in this cold water right here. That was the idea. You'd plug it in too. Of course, the final delicate shaping will be done with a file. Want to make sure this part that goes down into the groove is flat and free of burrs. At least on the end. Middle, of course, it needs burrs. Close to shaped correctly. The final edges, where are we? I can't see. The final, I guess, bevel here, which your hand would be hitting against. Probably not up there because I'll never play up there, but you want that to be nice and smooth. And I understand that they do make a fret file that you can file these things down once they're in place. Looks to me like you could screw up pretty badly, but we're not there yet. Keep this moist. I'm going to stick these in the refrigerator and come back later and pound the suckers in there. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, so back at it. We've got this moisturized. Now we're going to heat it up. Okay, now to the freezer. To the freezer bed, man. actually looks pretty darn good. Wait, where's, can't see it. I think. Still might be too big, but what can I say? And we want the number 2, the number 2 fret. Doesn't look too bad. I have to scrutinize it a little bit closer, but it seems to basically have worked. Now I gotta do all the rest of them.